All right. I will call the meeting to order, and I'll give our invocation this morning. If you're able to stand, please do so. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for this day, and thank you for all your many blessings. Dear Father, we thank you for this season of year, for the gift of your Son, Jesus Christ. Dear Father, we ask that you would help provide the hope, peace, and joy that he promises to all of us throughout our world, throughout our community. We ask for your blessings, for your wisdom as we make decisions affecting this airport and the people of this county. In your name I pray. Amen.
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 All right, first item is approval of the minutes. You received a copy of those. Anybody note any errors or omissions? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
Motion to approve minutes.
I have a is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next is the approval of financial statements. You received a copy of those. I will entertain a motion on approval.
Well, how much of that are we going over? Because I had a question about why the utilities had gone up so much. And then there was one place on here that other expenses, and Terry's put on here, ask Terry.
And so I joke with Yolanda, we've got to ask Chuck, because I never know why he puts that on there.
Oh, okay.
So we'll have to find out. I'll try to get you an answer by next time on exactly what he's saying to ask me about.
And like the telephone and, well, all utilities took a jump from 16.
That's because on all of these utilities and everything, remember, we only had the big hangar for half a year
Okay.
last year. This year, we've got the big hangar for the entire year. And the hangar has pretty substantial bills associated with it. Well, remember, we picked up the fuel farm, the terminal building, the big hangar, all utilities associated with all of those things, all the phone lines. We've got 6 phone lines for monitoring various aspects of our electronics out there. All of that adds up to explain the increase in the utilities.
Okay, thank you, Terry. And the only other thing I had, I think, is just the hangar. The IBA built that, but I know we pay them so much on it. But
That's right. We pay them $5,000 a month.
We showed it our asset, but that's normal since.
It's our asset, yes.
Okay.
And remember, what the IBA technically had was a lease. They leased the land from the airport authority. They built a building on that leased land. At the end of that lease, whatever improvements they made to the property returned to the airport anyway.
Okay.
What we actually bought was the remaining term of their lease, and whatever improvements were on the land came with the buyout of that lease.
Okay, thank you, Terry.
All right.
All right. Anybody, is there a motion on the adoption of the financial statements?
Make a motion we approve.
Have a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Airport Director's Report.
So the significant event this month was a foot of snow. We wound up notaming the airport closed for Saturday and Sunday. By Monday morning, the sun had shone for a couple of days there. We've got an excellent drainage system around the airfield. Everything had melted off, drained off. There was no black ice. We opened the airport back up as normal Monday morning. We had very minor damage. We lost one of the light bars on the segmented circle. We lost one of our housings off of one of our security cameras. We had some damage to an awning. We lost the power supply in the elevator in the terminal building and the internet service in the big hangar. Totally random things scattered all over the airport, but the total damage was less than $1,000. So we came out of that event pretty well. Like everybody else in Yorkville, we were without drinking water for most of the week last week, but that's all recovered now, and the airport is back to normal.
Do we have a backup power supply?
Interestingly, we don't have a backup power supply for the elevator. We've got 2 big diesel generators for backup power for the airport.
Well, people can climb stairs.
People can climb the, yeah, in the event of an emergency, don't take the elevator, take the stairs.
And have some emergency lights so people can see where to
We
go.
have lots of emergency lights, everything's been inspected, tested, fire extinguishers are current, the whole 9 yards. So we're, from a human safety standpoint, we're in really good shape.
Maybe we can send that to Hartsfield as a...
Yeah, I'm not gonna loan them my diesel generator.
All right, any questions, Terry? All right, the next one is the motion to authorize airport director to solicit bids for the wildlife exclusion fence, Phase 1.
All right, so let me bring you up to date on where we are. So we now have the final design for the wildlife fence based on the comments from last year from GDOT and FAA. And those final plans have been submitted to the FAA. The CADX was submitted at the end of November, about 3 weeks ago. So we're waiting to hear back on both the CADX and the final design. As you know, the grant funding for the first phase of that fence has already been approved. So the next step is we need to solicit bids. There has been comments by some in the community about why do we always get one bid, and the answer is because of the business environment at the airport. It's very difficult to get people to bid. So I encourage anybody out there who knows anybody who is a state DOT certified fence builder, please encourage them to bid on this project. This is going to be advertised, as all bids are, in the legal section of the legal organ of the county. We will send copies to everyone that we can find on our bid list, which includes the Georgia DOT vendor list that's published on their website. I've already begun to contact those and find out who would be interested in bidding our project. I think we have 4 or 5 who have indicated interest so far. But it is an open bid, open to all qualified vendors. And so if y'all want to encourage anybody that you know to bid on this project, we would appreciate that.
They just have to be Georgia DOT approved.
They have to be Georgia DOT approved because it is state DOT money that is going to be funding the project. So there are very specific requirements for who is a qualified vendor.
Yes.
Terry, you
I
said
sent
that,
some names.
Yeah, I've got those on the list.
How many linear feet is phase 1?
It's right at 4 miles.
Okay.
Well, phase 1 will be whatever fits. We have to wait until we get the bids in, and they will be bidding essentially by the foot. We'll have to match up the by the foot to the amount of GDOT funding that we have. So it depends on how good the bids are. So if we get excellent bids, maybe we get the whole fence installed. Depending on the value per foot of the bids, maybe we have to cut that down. But we have right at 4 miles of wildlife fence to put up.
Who will be producing the bid documents on that?
Those documents are already produced. That's done by our consultant, Holt Engineering, and I've already got those available if y'all would like to look at those. I can send them out to you electronically.
My concern is all those stumps that's going to be in the ground in some of the areas. That's non-typical for a fence contractor, and if that's not disclosed up front or either bid unclassified where they take the risk, they can be coming back asking for a changeover.
Yeah, any stumps that are in the way will be ground. So there's no disturbance allowed of the ground per the CADX. So we can't go dig the stumps up. They're going to have to be ground down with the stump grinder, or the fence will have to be adjusted so as not to be presented with the problem of the stumps.
Yeah, I understand that, but who's going to be responsible for grinding stumps? Is the fence contractor?
The fence contractor. Yeah, that's
Okay.
Clearly spelled out in the
Because they're not going
specifications.
to want to be trying to go in between stumps, zigzagging in and out. So,
That's right.
The stumps will have to ground down below ground level.
That's right.
Terry, you say we've already got the approval, to pay for this. But what are we expecting as far as how long will it be before they reimburse? Will we have to pay this up front and then?
Typically, we'll submit a pay voucher, and within 30 days, we'll get paid. Now, let me be very clear. What we've got is we've got approval of the grant. We still have to go in and apply for this specific contract. And so we're waiting on all of the approvals to come back before we can do that. So we'll need the final design approved by the FAA. We will need the final CADX approved by the FAA. We will need our bids in and approved by us so that we know exactly how much funding and how many feet of fence we're going to be asking for. And then that'll all be submitted as a package to Georgia DOT. and they will finalize our bid contract, which is a contract between us and GDOT, which will then officially kick off the construction of the fence.
And then we'd be looking at that 30 days once they have everything that they want.
I'm not going to project how long it's going
Well,
to
I
take
and
GDOT
I-
and FAA
And I
to do
guess my
anything.
fear too is, I know that there's been a discussion about the cost of legal expense, and us having to pay that up front. I mean, are we going to be where we're going to have the money to pay
Well,
that?
managing the money is something we do every day, so right now we believe we're okay on the funding
What is your best guess as to what?
of,
Your best guess as to what that's gonna end up costing the 4 miles or phase 1?
I'm not going to hazard a guess until we see the bids. We know how much we were approved in the grant, and so we're just going to have to wait and see how much of the fence we can get installed this year. It most likely will be a multi-year effort, though.
Yeah. So our first grant then is in the amount of what?
I think it was right at 400,000 in state funding and another 100,000 from us, in round numbers.
Okay.
I don't have that right in front of me, but it's on the order of $500,000 for the fence.
So we have to come up with 100,000 of it.
Yes.
Okay, thank you, Terry.
All right, is there a motion to authorize solicitation of bids?
I motion to authorize solicitation of the bids for the wildlife fence, phase 1.
I have a motion, is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Now, a motion to appoint a 3-person bid review committee for the wildlife fence phase 1 bids. You want me to do that? Are you gonna?
That's y'all's call, whoever you want on.
3 of
I don't
you
have
want to
any
serve?
recommendations.
Well, Ellis is always, he's got so much experience in that. I mean, well,
Ellis would be
he's
good.
well-versed in everything, we'll say, well-rounded.
Ellis, Teresa, and who's the third one?
I
Ellis, Teresa, and David, is there?
Nothing about it.
Well, you gonna learn, so. Hands-on training. All right, is there a motion to approve the appointment of Ellis, Teresa, and David Small as the bid review committee?
I make a motion that we approve for the bid review committee, Ellis, Teresa, and David Small.
All right, is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion other than those that have been appointed? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Well, I'd like Ellis and David to know that they, have got their hands full.
All right. The next one is a motion to report the purchase of parcel tax ID number 154.1.3.004.0000, also known as Parcel N, on the airport layout plan consisting of 10.03 acres at a price of $85,000. Is there a motion to approve, a motion to report that purchase? I'm sorry.
So moved.
Have a motion, is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
The purchase has already been.
It was approved and has been completed, and this is the reporting of the purchase. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next item is the approval of the 2018 Board of Directors regular meeting schedule. You've seen that, noting the third Wednesdays of the month. In November, there is a conflict. I would suggest that we adopt the calendar, and then if we decide to move that meeting, or if there's no necessity for a meeting, it can be canceled. But just for the sake of time and effort and people's calendars now. Is there a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, next item is necessity for a closed session to discuss real estate and litigation. Is there a motion to enter closed session for those purposes?
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Motion by Mr. Aston to enter closed session for the purpose of real estate litigation. Second by Chairman Carmichael. Is there any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
We've got one.
All right, is there a motion to return to regular session and with no report from executive session?
Make a motion to return from executive session with no report.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the next item, citizens wishing to speak, and we have Sue Wilkins, talk about airport structures.
Good morning, thank you.
Morning.
I actually don't have a speech to make, but I do have a few questions that I'm hoping you'll answer here today. I heard through the grapevine that the corporate hangar does not meet the required fire code for a building the size that it is, and as a result, it's only allowed to house defueled aircraft. Is that true?
Why don't you, go ahead and ask all your
Okay.
questions.
Is
and
it
we'll see.
true? And if it is, what's the status? And if it's true, what's needed to bring the hangar up to code? And if it's true, does it still have tenants? That's it.
All right,
I don't recall anything being said publicly about this. And like I said, I heard through the grapevine, and I just wanted to find out if it's all true or not.
okay, thank you. I'll let you end your time, and then I'll ask you.
Thank you.
Terry, do you have any of that you want to address here, or you want to address?
No,
it?
I can address it.
Okay,
So the situation with the corporate hangar is that the corporate hangar was never finished. So we have the 25,000 square foot, what I call the box, the big portion of the hangar, which we do have an occupancy permit on, but that occupancy permit was based partially on a design that included a wall being built in the center of the hangar. And it gets very technical because you have to go look at a spec called the 409 NAFPA spec, the National Fire Protection Association. Is that right? National Fire Protection Association. And it's complicated by the fact that the office space adjacent to the big hangar, of course, has never been finished. And we did take action several months ago to authorize me to go start doing preliminary studies to then come back and make a recommendation to this board on what to do with the hangar, or with specifically the office space, but I'm including the big part of the hangar as well. And so I have engaged in conversations that so far have been for free from various industry sources, some of which Dave Small has helped me with, some of which we knew from other sources at the airport. And so far we have collected some estimates on what it would take to build the wall, what it would take to install a foam system, what it would take to finish out the office space, basically to finish the hangar. But that is still preliminary and ongoing. If I weren't spending all of my time in court and with attorneys, I'd have more time to focus on these kind of issues. But in the spare time, limited time that I do have, I have gathered a lot of information, but not ready to report back to this group yet with a recommendation on what needs to happen in order to bring the hangar to full completion and into full compliance with all fire codes that would be required for any use that we might have for the hangar going forward. So that's
So
where we are.
the
with
corporate
big hangar.
jet is still a tenant?
Corporate jet is still there, yes.
You can do that even though you're not up to code?
I'm not going to go into the legalities
Ah.
of anything on that.
I think if we have anything further, we need to address that.
Okay. I'm just concerned about our liability. So,
Yeah.
okay, thank you.
Right. Anything else from this board? If not, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Have a motion, is there a second?
Second.
Motion and second, any discussion?
I wish everybody a Merry Christmas and Happy New Year.
Me too. All right,
Thank
all
you.
those in favor of adjournment? Aye. Any opposed? Thank you.